Hey there, friends. Welcome back to the channel. Or if it's your first time here, we're so glad you found us. We're all about real talk, big ideas, and content that actually makes a difference. If you enjoy what you're hearing, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a beat. Let's dive in. Finding opportunities in complaints, how Jewish wisdom turns struggles into gold. 1. In the sound of sighs, the Jewish hear gold. In a crowded room, when most people are complaining about rising prices, unstable jobs, or market chaos, they nod and lament together. But in that same room, if there's a Jewish person, he won't complain or agree. He will sit quietly, take notes, and listen closely to every sigh. To him, every complaint is a clue, a compass pointing toward an unmet need. This mindset didn't come out of nowhere. It's the result of centuries living under oppression, forced to become sharper than others, to survive by intellect rather than numbers. While the world sees dead ends, the Jewish see unopened doors. Complaints, the language of underserved markets. Have you ever noticed that most daily conversations are filled with sighs? Someone says, "It's so hard to find a clean and tasty vegan place." Another moans, "Kids are studying online, but the books are so boring." And a mother sighs, "No one teaches how to give children financial thinking from a young age." These aren't just annoyances, they're opportunities. There's an old Jewish lesson: don't be annoyed by complaints, let them make you rich. In other words, when people complain, they're unconsciously outlining untapped territories, markets that are crying for solutions. That's where you can step in first. 3. Entrepreneurs who rose from the sounds of sighs. This is not just theory. The history of Jewish business is filled with real-life stories like this. Howard Schultz, founder of Starbucks, didn't start with coffee beans. He started with a complaint. Why is there no place in America, like in Italy, where you can relax and talk over coffee? Sarah Blakely, founder of Spanx, once said, "Why doesn't anyone make seamless tights for tight outfits?" That frustration wasn't just a personal annoyance, it was a billion-dollar market. The Jewish don't ignore sighs. They don't just hear them, they respond to them. 4. Analyzing complaints, the Jewish way of thinking. Not every complaint is an opportunity. The secret lies in 3 steps. Step 1, record every complaint, no matter how small. To the Jewish, this is raw data. A notebook, a phone app, a whiteboard. These tools help them capture every problem others face. Step 2, identify the hidden need behind it. People don't say directly, "I need service ABC." They'll say, "This is so frustrating," or "I wish this was easier." The Jewish break this down into categories: pain, inconvenience, lack of options. Step 3, prioritize the most repeated problem. If 100 people are complaining about the same thing, that's a strong signal of an underserved niche in the market. 5. Where others see problems, the Jewish see a way out. Take Isidore Sharp, founder of the Four Seasons hotel chain. On a trip, he heard a guest complain, "I want a luxurious hotel that feels like home, but they're all cold and robotic." That comment birthed the idea of high-end hotels with personalized service, reshaping the entire luxury hospitality industry. Jewish thinking always follows this principle. While others ask, "Why hasn't anyone done this yet?" they ask, "Why can't I be the first to do it?" 6. From crisis to breakthrough, finding complaints in chaos. During financial meltdowns, economic slumps, or pandemics, the world blames the circumstances. But the Jewish ask something entirely different. What do people need most right now that no one is offering? During COVID-19, while millions were stuck at home, unable to exercise or connect socially, Jewish businesses quickly launched home workout apps, online tutoring for children, remote mental health services. They didn't react, they anticipated. They moved 2 steps ahead of demand while others froze. 7. The value isn't in the complaint, it's in turning it into a solution. There's a powerful Jewish saying: money doesn't come from being good at complaining, it comes from being good at listening to complaints. They see the market as a living organism, and complaints are its cry for help. The smart ones are those who can read the pain of the market and write the answer in the form of products, services, or innovations. 8. This reverse thinking can be learned, but not by the lazy-minded. People often ask, "I'm not Jewish. Can I still learn this?" The answer is, Yes, if you're willing to shift your perspective. Don't avoid places where people are complaining. Walk into them and ask, can I help with this? Don't just see frustration, see the gap. Don't read the news to get angry. Read it to find unmet needs in the market. 9. Action plan to train your ear for opportunity. If you want to start thinking the Jewish way today, 1. Create a file or notebook titled Today's Complaints. Each day, jot down at least 3 things people complain about online, in public, at home. 3. By the end of the week, find the most recurring issue. 4. Write down 10 possible solutions, even the wild ones. 5. Pick one you're excited about. Build a simple MVP. 6. Test it. Track reactions. Refine. Scale. This is how thousands of startups are born. And it's how the Jewish turned centuries of rejection into financial empires. 10. Don't ask, why am I poor? Ask, who needs me to solve what? The Jewish didn't become wealthy by luck. They did it by looking at the world through a unique lens, the lens of unmet needs waiting to be heard. And you, if you stop complaining, start listening, and then transform those sighs into something that helps others, you are walking the same path that millions of successful Jewish individuals have traveled. You don't need to be Jewish to learn from their wisdom. You only need to learn to think differently, listen deeply, and act early. Who's getting rich off me? The Jewish way of asking backward to move forward. 1. Don't ask, how can I be rich? Ask, who's already rich because of me? Most people spend their lives chasing wealth by asking, how can I get rich? They look for high-paying jobs, start side hustles, or invest in trends. But the Jewish mindset flips this question on its head. They ask something far sharper. Who is getting rich because of the value I create? This isn't just a philosophical twist. It's a strategic, razor-sharp way of seeing where power, money, and control truly lie. While the average worker focuses on salary, the Jewish thinker follows the flow of value. Where does the energy go? Who captures the profit at the top of the chain? Who designs the game? And who's just playing in it? This question alone can shift an entire life path, from worker to creator, from consumer to architect. The hidden chain of value and where you stand. Let's say you work at a delivery service. You work hard. You deliver 200 packages a day. You're paid per hour. Who's getting rich? Not you. It's the platform owner who designed the system, captured the customers, and monetized the entire operation. Or let's say you post daily content on a platform for free. Who's monetizing your creativity, time, and audience? Not you. It's the platform again, the one who sells ads on your traffic. The Jewish don't just accept their role in the value chain. They zoom out and ask, where is the control? Who takes the biggest cut? And how do I move upstream? 3. Case study. The bagel seller versus the flour tycoon. Imagine 2 people. One sells bagels at the market, the other supplies flour to 100 bakeries. The bagel seller wakes up at 3 a.m., needs dough, bakes nonstop, earns $150 a day. The flour supplier never touches dough, but earns $5 from every bagel seller daily, times 100. Most people see the bagel. The Jewish mind sees the flour. Because once you ask, who's getting rich off my hustle, you realize you're the bagel guy feeding someone else's empire. The goal is to own the supply chain, not just survive inside it. 4. Owning the value chain, one step at a time. The goal isn't to become a billionaire overnight. It's to climb from the bottom of the chain to somewhere with leverage. Let's say you're a content creator. You write brilliant posts. Instead of just boosting the platform's ad revenue, you build your email list. You sell your own product. You launch a micro brand. You create a digital asset, ebook, course, community. Bit by bit, you shift from the tail-end consumer to the one shaping the system. The Jewish rarely allow themselves to be indispensable but invisible. They believe, if I am the source of value, I must also control how it is distributed. 5. Who profits when you do nothing? That's the power seat. Ask yourself, if I stop working today, who notices? And if someone else stops, does it collapse the system? This is how you identify whether you're a gear or the gearbox. Jewish investors often focus on recurring models, rental income, royalties, equity, intellectual property, not because they're lazy, but because they understand. True power lies where money keeps flowing even when you stop moving. 6. Shift the question. Change the game. Most people are stuck in this loop. How do I earn more? How do I get promoted? How do I work faster? But the Jewish flip it. Whose game am I playing? What system am I feeding? Can I change the rules? This shift transforms them from employees to system designers, from value carriers to value owners. 7. The secret behind Jewish business empires. From real estate to finance to media, many Jewish empires began not with capital, but with questions. Who's charging everyone a fee, even if they don't work today? Who controls the terms of engagement? How can I move from service to system? It's not about greed, it's about clarity. They don't hustle blindly. They map the structure and rise through it deliberately. 8. Small start, big shift. How you can apply it today. Let's get practical. You're a freelance designer? Don't just deliver designs. Start building templates to sell. You're a tutor? Record lessons, create courses, and license your method. You're an employee? Start documenting your process and look for ways to automate or own parts of the workflow. Every small step that moves you from laborer to system thinker is a step toward liberation. Don't just work hard, work above. Hard work isn't the problem. The Jewish work extremely hard, but they ask, am I working inside someone else's funnel or building my own? This is not about quitting your job. It's about seeing beyond your role, tracing the money trail, and asking, how do I get closer to where the money collects? That mindset alone makes all the difference. Cha 10. Control is wealth, not just earnings. In the Jewish worldview, wealth equals ownership, not just income. You can earn $10,000 a month and still be trapped if you own nothing. You can earn $1,000 a month with equity and compound it into millions. The key is not just being paid for your time. It's owning something that grows when you sleep, something others depend on, something you created, not just executed. And it all begins with one backwards question. Who is getting rich because of me? Once you know that, you can start getting rich because of yourself. Business across generations. The Jewish strategy for lasting wealth. 1. Don't chase today's profit. Build for the next century. While most people build businesses for short-term gain, looking for fast money, instant ROI, or flashy exits, the Jewish approach is entirely different. They build for generations. To the Jewish mind, a successful business isn't one that just makes money this year. It's one that creates a structure, a culture, a legacy that their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren can inherit, expand, and protect. They ask not, how much did I earn this quarter? But will this business still serve my family in 50 years? That shift changes everything, from how they treat employees, manage risk, invest profits, to how they make decisions in times of crisis. 2. Temporary wealth versus generational wealth. There are two types of wealth. Temporary wealth. You open a store, sell hard, make quick money, then burn out in 3 years. Generational wealth. You build a business system that continues even when you're gone, transferring knowledge, equity, and culture through your bloodline. The Jewish focus is always on the second. To them, a business isn't just a money machine. It's a family fortress, a school of values, a bank of identity, and a foundation of freedom. 3. Business is built with time, not just capital. The Jewish don't rush into hype trends. While others pour money into what's hot, they ask, is this industry cyclical or foundational? Can this business survive 10-year changes in culture and technology? Will my children want to run this, or will they curse it? Because if the business burns out in 5 years, it's not wealth, it's distraction. Jewish families often favor businesses in core sectors: real estate, education, finance, legal services, and supply chain. Not just because they're profitable, but because they're structural. These fields evolve slowly, compound steadily, and pass down easily. 4. Family as the first board of directors. In many Jewish households, children grow up at the dinner table listening to business talk, not as background noise, but as preparation. They learn how to negotiate, how to assess risk, how to manage suppliers, how to treat employees with dignity, how to protect brand and values. This is not just about money. It's about mindset. By the time a Jewish child turns 18, many already understand more about real-world business dynamics than most college graduates. It's no coincidence that some of the most enduring family-owned companies across the world trace their lineage to Jewish families. Top 5. Think like a tree planter, not a fruit picker. A powerful Jewish proverb says, "You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it." This means start something bigger than yourself. You may not see all the fruits in your lifetime, but your job is to plant the tree. The Jewish treat every decision, every deal, every client interaction, every hire as a seed. Will it nourish the soil? Will it grow strong roots? Will it cast shade for your descendants? If the answer is no, they don't proceed. 6. Delay gratification. Master time. Short-term thinkers withdraw profits to buy cars and vacations. Long-term thinkers reinvest, diversify, and compound their earnings. Jewish entrepreneurs are known for living modestly even when they earn abundantly. Not because they are frugal, but because they see every dollar as a potential foundation brick for the next generation. To them, patience is profit. Time is not the enemy, it's the asset. 7. Every business is also a school. When Jewish families build businesses, they also build learning ecosystems. They don't just pass down wealth, they pass down systems, strategies, customer relationships, community goodwill, reputation capital. They create manuals, rituals, stories. The grandfather's way of doing business becomes the grandson's guidebook, not in a rigid way, but as principles that evolve while staying grounded. Their secret? Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you build into the present. 8. Crisis-proofing through generational thinking. When others panic in downturns, Jewish families often stand firmer. Why? Because they're not playing for 2025. They're playing for 2075. A short-term hit doesn't derail them. They've seen worse. They've built resilience into their structures, from legal protections to diversified revenue to strong community ties. They know. When you think across generations, you don't overreact to seasons. 9. Community, not just company. Another pillar of Jewish long-term business thinking is community. They don't build in isolation. A Jewish-owned business is often part of a tight-knit network of mutual support. Other businesses, families, professionals. When one struggles, others help. When one succeeds, others benefit. This community-first model means stability, collaboration, and shared longevity, things that solo, ego-driven businesses often lack. 10. Build something that outlives you. The ultimate goal isn't to die rich. It's to live meaningfully and leave behind a structure that empowers others to thrive long after you're gone. The Jewish don't seek immortality through fame. They seek it through impact, through systems that work even in their absence, through values engraved into the walls of every store, every office, every home. They don't build businesses to retire. They build businesses so their family never has to beg. That is the definition of real wealth. Don't ask how to get rich this year. Ask how your great-grandchildren will remember what you built. Failure is tuition, but it must pay you back. 1. Failure is a costly teacher, so don't waste the lesson. To most people, failure is shameful. It's something to avoid, hide, or forget. But to the Jewish mindset, failure is not an enemy. It's a professor with a high tuition fee. And just like any expensive education, it must deliver returns. In Jewish culture, failure is accepted, even expected, as part of the path to mastery. But there's a catch. If you've paid the price, you must collect the wisdom, and then you must use that wisdom to earn it back with interest. Because a failure that isn't turned into profit, mental, financial, or strategic, is a total loss. But a failure that becomes fuel, that's investment. 2. Don't cry over spilled milk. Sell cheese next time. Let's say you lost money in a failed business. Most people would grieve, complain, and retreat. The Jewish response? Break it down, analyze it, teach it, monetize it. What went wrong? What assumptions did you make? What patterns do you see now? How can others avoid the same trap? How will your next move be smarter? They believe that every mistake carries a blueprint for a better decision, if you dare to study it. They ask, how can this pain become a platform? 3. Failures are raw material. Process them into assets. A Jewish entrepreneur who failed at a product launch doesn't just move on. He might turn the journey into a paid webinar, Write a book or ebook about the mistakes. Mentor others for a fee. Start a smarter version of the same idea. Build a checklist, toolkit, or system to sell ale. In other words, transform embarrassment into education. Turn damage into data. Recycle regret into results. Because if you've paid the cost, you now own the rights to the knowledge, and that knowledge has market value. 4. Shame is a poor investment. Use it, don't marinate in it. Many people fail and then sink into self-blame, guilt, or silence. They hide from the world. That's the worst ROI imaginable. The Jewish lesson? You don't have time for shame. You've already lost money. Don't lose momentum too. Their philosophy is action-oriented. Either I win or I gain insight. Either way, I move forward. This mindset allows them to try more, risk more, learn faster, and, over time, win bigger. 5. The Jewish family table. Stories of failure, not just glory. In many Jewish homes, stories of failure are told just as proudly as stories of success. Why? Because they're the bridges that connect generations to real-world wisdom. The son doesn't just hear, your grandfather built this business. He also hears, your grandfather once lost everything because he trusted the wrong partner. And here's what he learned. This culture de-weapons shame and replaces it with intellectual capital. They normalize failure, not to encourage recklessness, but to accelerate recovery. 6. Failing once isn't stupid. Failing the same way twice is. The Jewish don't fear mistakes, but they fear repeating the same ones blindly. Every failure comes with a demand. Document it. Understand it. Share it. Monetize it. Think of it as an unpaid invoice sitting on your desk. If you don't study and reuse it, you're leaving money, growth, and wisdom on the table. That's not humility. That's waste. 7. Turn failures into frameworks. The Jewish are known for building systems, not just stories. So when they fail, they don't just cry and recover. They create new hiring protocols, smarter contract terms, better partner vetting checklists, decision filters, business principles for the next venture. They don't waste pain. They codify it into rules, then teach others, protect their community, and strengthen their network. 8. Every scar is intellectual property. In the Jewish entrepreneurial world, scars are valuable. You launched a product and nobody bought it, you now have more insight into customer behavior than 99% of the market. You were scammed by a partner? You now understand red flags that others ignore. You built something that crashed? You now know what not to build, and that alone can save someone millions. To the Jewish mind, this isn't humiliation. It's consulting material. 9. The real cost of failure isn't the money. It's what you don't learn. Losing $10,000 is painful, but losing $10,000 worth of lessons because you were too proud or too afraid to study them? That's tragic. That's why the Jewish philosophy is clear. If I must pay the price, then I must profit from the pain. They treat every mistake like a business expense and expect a return. 10. Failure is tuition, but you must graduate. At its core, the Jewish view of failure is deeply empowering. It says, you are not defined by what broke. You are not your mistake, but you are responsible for making it count. They don't fear failure. They fear wasting it. And in a world where many run from their losses, the Jewish stand still, look them in the eye and say, you will teach me something that pays me back one way or another. That is how failure becomes a currency, not a curse, but capital. Buy what others need, not what you like. The Jewish rule for smart spending and strategic ownership. 1. Emotion is expensive. Utility is profitable. Most people buy with their hearts. They see something shiny, trendy, or emotionally satisfying, and they open their wallets. The Jewish mindset? Very different. They ask one question before every major purchase. Can this make money for me later? Whether it's a car, a house, a tool, or even a piece of clothing. The thought process revolves around value retention, resale, rental potential, or utility to others. They don't view purchases as ends. They view them as assets in waiting. 2. It's not about you. It's about the market. This principle may sound harsh in a world that glorifies treating yourself, but the Jewish understand one timeless truth. Your feelings don't appreciate in value. Market demand does. You may love that designer couch, but can it be resold, rented out, or used to generate income? You may want the biggest TV, but will it help your business, your resale value, your rental property? They don't spend based on mood. They spend based on function and future value. Shas 3. From consumer to curator. When you enter a store, are you a buyer or a strategist? The Jewish train themselves from a young age to think like investors, not impulse shoppers. They ask, if I no longer need this, will someone else want it? Is this the type of item that holds value or loses it overnight? Does this purchase align with my long-term goals? They don't buy what makes them feel richer today. They buy what helps them be richer tomorrow. 4. The principle of liquid ownership. Jewish financial philosophy includes the idea of liquid ownership. Own things that can be turned back into cash, value, or leverage fast. That's why they prefer properties in desirable areas over personal mansions, gold or commodities over collectibles, equipment that can be rented, tools that serve business, not ego, vehicles that retain market value or serve logistics. Every dollar spent must work, not just rest. 5. Emotional spending is a hidden tax. People often think money is lost only through bad investments. But Jewish wisdom says, the money you spend emotionally without thinking is the most dangerous loss because it feels justified. That designer bag? Gone value next season. That luxury gadget? Obsolete in a year. That status symbol car drops 20% the moment you drive it. Emotional spending feels empowering in the moment, but it chains you to debt, clutter, and regret later. 6. Can you rent it out, resell it, build on it? This is the holy trinity of the Jewish spending mindset. Can I rent this to someone else? Can I resell it if needed? Can I use it to build something bigger? If an item doesn't pass at least one of these tests, they reconsider the purchase. Because every item in your home should serve you or someone else who's willing to pay for it. Otherwise, it's not an asset. It's just financial deadweight. 7. Small purchases, big discipline. This thinking doesn't apply only to real estate or big investments. It applies to everyday choices. Buying books to build a consulting library, buying a better phone to shoot content, choosing clothes that hold secondhand value, selecting tech that boosts your side hustle. The rule is simple. If you spend money, make sure it serves a purpose beyond pleasure. 8. Your wallet should reflect the world, not just your whims. The Jewish don't believe in buy what makes you happy. They believe in buy what makes you useful. They align purchases with market demand, social contribution, and future liquidity. They think, will this make me more capable? Will this connect me to more people? Will this free me up to create more value? If the answer is no, they pass. 9. Delayed gratification, immediate clarity. Impulse spending clouds judgment. Strategic spending clears the path. Jewish households teach children from early on to differentiate between desire versus demand, status versus stability, flash versus function. That's why they often seem frugal on the surface, but underneath, they're allocating resources with precision. 10. Don't shop to impress, shop to empower. At the end of the day, the Jewish financial compass points toward one direction: ownership with purpose. They don't buy for likes. They don't shop to fill a void. They buy to build leverage, options, and control. Spend like someone who plans to be free, not famous. That's the difference between buying what you like and buying what the world needs. The less capital you have, the more you must invest in your mind. The Jewish principle: when you have nothing, start with intelligence. 1. No money? Then think harder. While many people believe that having no capital means they must wait, pause, or give up, the Jewish mindset teaches the opposite. If I don't have money, I must train my brain to be sharper than those who do. In Jewish culture, poverty of the wallet is not a death sentence. Poverty of the mind is. And that's the one thing they never allow. They believe that your brain is your first investor, your fastest multiplier, and your last defense in any crisis. So the less you have in your pocket, the more you should pour into reading, learning, practicing, observing, asking smarter questions. 2. Capital can be lost, but intelligence compounds forever. Money can vanish, properties can burn, jobs can be cut, but what you learn, that's fireproof. What you understand, that's inflation proof. What you master, that's recession proof. That's why the Jewish, even in the poorest ghettos of history, built libraries before living rooms and study circles before marketplaces. Because they understood, if I cannot buy something today, I can still earn the mind that will one day own many things. They train the mind like the wealthy train armies. While others entertain themselves in downtime, Jewish individuals often do the opposite. They study market trends, behavioral patterns, legal frameworks, and investment psychology. They may not own land, but they understand how land appreciates. They may not have a company, but they learn how systems scale. They may not have stocks, but they study how value moves. By the time opportunity comes, they don't guess. They act with precision because they've trained for it. Free resources? That's gold for the hungry mind. While some complain, I don't have access, the Jewish look around and think, what's in the public library? What podcasts can I absorb while commuting? What mentor can I serve for free just to learn? What conversations can sharpen me today? They see YouTube not as entertainment, but as a university. They see a secondhand book not as used, but as undervalued wisdom. The world is full of resources. The Jewish just know how to recognize them, extract them, and apply them faster than others. Pashna 5. A sharp mind cuts through every barrier. There are people with money who stay stuck, and people with nothing who break through. What's the difference? Mental leverage. Jewish individuals teach their children, you may not control your starting line, but you can control your sharpness. Mental leverage means turning ideas into pitches, turning problems into opportunities, turning observations into innovations, turning silence into insight. With enough of this, you don't beg for a job, you create one. You don't chase capital, you attract it. 6. Intelligence is the most democratic investment. Not everyone is born into wealth, but everyone has 24 hours and a brain that hungers for input. The Jewish see that as the fairest playing field of all. They don't waste time blaming circumstances. They outthink them. They teach their kids early. Why did that business fail? What lesson is hiding in that crisis? What did the world not see in that decision? Because the one who studies reality deeply can reshape it completely. 7. Your brain is the only asset the world can't steal. Wars can take homes, markets can take jobs, rivals can steal customers, but no one can take your ideas, your frameworks, your interpretations, your awareness. That's why Jewish communities invest so heavily in debate, discussion, and deep learning. Not for prestige, but because knowledge is portable power. Wherever they go, they carry the currency of comprehension. 8. When you can't buy, you must decode. If you can't buy stocks, learn why they rise and fall. If you can't buy real estate, study how cycles and location work. If you can't start a business, volunteer in one and study the engine. In other words, if you cannot participate with money, participate with your mind. That's how Jewish thinkers become fluent in business before they ever spend a dime. And a 9. Every skill learned is a seed planted. 1 hour of learning can lead to a better negotiation, a smarter decision, a safer investment, a new product, a more strategic partnership. This is why the Jewish measure time in seeds, not seconds. And they don't watch the clock. They plant knowledge and wait for it to grow. Over time, what begins as mental muscle becomes financial mastery. 10. If you're broke, train like you're rich. Jewish wisdom says, before you can manage a fortune, prove you can manage your mind. They believe that how you handle zero determines how you handle millions. So even in lack, they dress with intention, speak with clarity, think with depth, move with purpose, learn without stopping. They don't wait for money to begin behaving like wealth builders. They begin by becoming rich in thought, because all riches follow that. And that's the lesson. If your pocket is empty, fill your head, because a full mind builds fortunes faster than a full wallet ever could. Turn rivals into allies, the Jewish strategy to expand influence, not burn bridges. Don't destroy competition, outgrow it together. Pa 1, don't kill the competitor, invite them to the table. In many markets, people are trained to think there can only be one winner. So they wage price wars, sabotage reputations, and waste energy trying to eliminate the competition. But Jewish wisdom sees a better route. If your competitor is smart enough to threaten you, they're smart enough to build with you. Instead of treating every rival as a threat, they explore. What strengths does this person have that I don't? What markets do they reach that I haven't? What would happen if we joined forces, even partially? It's not weakness, it's long game thinking. 2. From conflict to collaboration, a strategic flip. When tensions arise, most people escalate, but the Jewish approach is different. They start with conversation. They find common ground. They reframe the tension as opportunity. Why? Because they understand. Burning a bridge today may cost you an empire tomorrow. History is full of Jewish entrepreneurs who turned their fiercest rivals into strategic allies through licensing deals, co-investments, joint ventures, or even shared R&D. In their eyes, a smart rival is not a threat. It's a mirror and a multiplier. 3. I compete, therefore I see you. Jewish business thinkers believe your competitor sees your blind spots better than you do. That's why they watch rivals with respect, not resentment. They reverse the emotional trap. Envy becomes curiosity. Comparison becomes benchmarking. Tension becomes dialogue. And through that, they learn faster, innovate quicker, and often grow beyond the need to compete at all. Act 4. Expand the pie. Don't fight over crumbs. One of the most powerful Jewish business principles is this. Don't just fight for market share, create new markets. Instead of saying, they're stealing my customers, they ask, can we offer a bundle together? Can we divide focus and dominate niche segments? Can I manufacture, they distribute? Can I white label my product for them? While others compete over the same sliver of pie, they build a bakery together. 5. The power of networked influence. The Jewish community thrives on tight-knit, trust-based networks. Instead of trying to win alone, they win through alliances. A competitor today might be your supplier next year, your investor in 5 years, your joint venture partner in 10. That's why they never humiliate publicly, burn unnecessarily, or close doors permanently. Because every person in the market carries future potential, and the Jewish are trained to spot it early. 6. When in doubt, learn from the enemy. Even when collaboration isn't possible, Jewish thinkers still extract value. They study rivals with surgical precision. What's working for them? What are their weaknesses? What do customers say about them? How do they handle crisis? Then they use this insight to build better, faster, and smarter. In the Jewish worldview, if someone is beating you, it means they're doing something right. Don't react, decode. Ask 7. Emotional ego destroys strategic growth. Pride says, I don't need them. Wisdom says, what if we're stronger together? Many business people miss million-dollar opportunities because they let ego block evolution. But the Jewish mindset is built on humility before reality. They don't need to be right. They need to advance. They don't fear being second if it brings them closer to something bigger. They don't compete on emotion. They navigate with logic. 8. Case studies in strategic partnerships. Throughout history, Jewish entrepreneurs have used this principle to leapfrog the competition. A struggling tech company partners with a rival to co-develop patents, then licenses them to an entire industry. A small media creator joins with a competitor to build a podcast network, doubling both their audiences. A local wholesaler strikes a deal with a once rival retail chain to become their exclusive back-end supplier. Result? Influence grows, capital grows, legacy grows, and no one had to lose for someone else to win. 9. Make peace before you need it. Jewish strategy also emphasizes proactive diplomacy. Don't wait until there's a lawsuit, a smear campaign, or a market crash. Reach out early, offer value first, build rapport, keep communication warm, even if business isn't happening yet. This way, when tension comes, trust already exists. 10. Influence is grown through bridges, not battlefields. In the end, the Jewish lesson is simple. Tarak, don't aim to destroy competitors, aim to outgrow them with alliances. Because in business, every enemy you make is a future cost, Every ally you build is a future gate. Every burned bridge is a locked opportunity. And every open hand, when extended wisely, can become a ladder to levels you can't reach alone. That's how the Jewish don't just win markets. They shape ecosystems. They don't conquer, they connect. And from those connections, they rise farther than force ever could. If you want your child to be rich, let them fail early. The Jewish approach to raising resilient, reality-ready generations. 1. Shielding a child from failure is shielding them from growth. Many parents equate love with protection. They rush to fix mistakes, solve problems, and pave smooth roads for their children, believing that comfort equals success. But in Jewish parenting philosophy, comfort is not the goal. Character is. That's why Jewish families allow their children to fail early and fail often. Because every scraped knee, every broken plan, every embarrassing mistake is a training ground for resilience, emotional regulation, strategic thinking, self-accountability. They understand that a child who never faces difficulty becomes an adult who breaks under pressure. Early failure builds lifelong muscles. Failure in youth is like lifting weights for the mind. It teaches lessons no book can learn where your limits are. You learn how to ask for help. You learn to stand up after loss. You learn that failure isn't fatal, inaction is. Jewish parents often don't rescue immediately when their child messes up. Instead, they ask, "What did you learn? What will you do differently next time?" What part of this was in your control? By doing so, they plant the seeds of ownership and adaptability, traits essential for wealth building later in life. 3. Adversity is not trauma, it's training. Modern parenting often confuses challenge with danger, but Jewish tradition makes a clear distinction. Pain is not always harmful. Sometimes it's useful. Jewish children are not raised in bubbles. They're encouraged to debate openly, face consequences, try, fail, and try again. Earn trust through effort, not entitlement. They're taught that life is not always fair, but it is always feedback. And the sooner they hear that feedback, the sooner they learn to pivot. 4. Wealth without grit is fragile. You can inherit money, but you can't inherit strength. Jewish families know that money passed down without mental toughness usually vanishes by the second generation. That's why they focus less on giving wealth and more on building wealth holders. Kids who can bounce back, kids who can solve problems under pressure, kids who don't fear trying again, kids who see failure as tuition, not tragedy. Because a child who's never fallen will never learn how to rise. Business lessons begin in the playground. Jewish children learn economic principles through play, chores, and small-scale ventures. A child who loses allowance by mismanaging it learns budgeting. A child who tries to sell something and gets rejected learns sales. A child who shares a bad idea and gets laughed at learns market feedback. This early crash testing of the ego is intentional. They are taught that failure is part of the process, not proof they are not good enough. 6. Love is letting go at the right moment. Jewish parenting isn't cold or distant. It's deeply loving, but grounded in a profound belief. My job is not to carry my child forever, but to make sure they can carry themselves. That's why they allow their children to take calculated risks, encourage independent decisions from a young age, embrace failure as part of maturity, celebrate effort, not just outcome. They know that a spoiled child grows weak, but a supported yet challenged child, they grow strong. 7. Emotional safety, not emotional padding. There's a difference between being emotionally safe and being emotionally sheltered. Jewish parents provide a safe place to cry, an open space to confess, a trusted ear to discuss setbacks, but they don't erase the consequence. They don't say, "It's okay" when it's not. They say, "It's tough. Now let's talk about what's next." That's how their children learn to face reality without being crushed by it. 8. Real confidence comes from surviving small defeats. Jewish children aren't told, "You're the best." They're told, "Let's find out how good you can become." This growth-centered language builds a deeper kind of confidence, one based on evidence, repetition, reflection, internal calibration. They believe, Better a child who fails 10 times young than an adult who fails once and collapses, because the world doesn't spare the fragile, it rewards the flexible. 9, a culture that honors failure as a step forward. Jewish culture normalizes failure, not as a badge of shame, but as a signal of engagement. They tell stories not just of heroes, but of stumbles. The merchant who went bankrupt twice, the student who failed his rabbinical exam, the woman who pitched 10 investors before getting a yes. These aren't cautionary tales, they are curriculums in courage. A child who knows how to fall will one day know how to fly. In the end, the goal is not to raise a perfect child. It's to raise one who knows how to think, adapt, reflect, persevere, rebuild. The Jewish understand. If you want your child to be strong in the future, let them struggle in the present, while they still have your guidance nearby. Because when a child fails safely and early, they grow rich in wisdom, humility, strategy, self-trust, and those are the greatest forms of capital anyone can carry into adulthood. Turn your weakness into wealth. The Jewish way, transforming pain into product, flaws into fortune. 1. Don't hide your flaws. Monetize them. Most people treat their weaknesses like secrets. They hide them, feel ashamed, and pretend they don't exist. But the Jewish mindset sees weakness differently. What you're ashamed of today could become the foundation of your fortune tomorrow. Instead of bearing the pain, they study it, own it, and transform it. Because every struggle you've lived through has taught you something, has shaped your perspective, has made you see problems others ignore. And that perspective is a unique business insight if you dare to use it. 2. The wound is where the wisdom lives. Jewish entrepreneurs don't just ask, "What am I good at?" They ask, "What have I survived that others are still struggling with?" That question leads to powerful businesses. A person who overcame debt builds a financial coaching brand. A woman who battled body image issues creates inclusive fashion. A man who stuttered as a child builds a public speaking course for shy teens. In Jewish thinking, the scar is not the shame, it's the starting point, because that's where authenticity, empathy, and innovation live. 3. Pain creates products. If you listen closely, your most painful experiences often contain a problem that still exists for others, a gap in the market that no one noticed, a need that hasn't been met properly. Jewish thinkers don't avoid these moments, they mine them. They ask, what do I wish existed back when I was struggling? Can I build that now for someone else? How can I package my journey into something valuable? This is not about exploiting pain. It's about recycling suffering into solutions. 4. What feels broken may be your brand. Many world-changing Jewish ideas came from brokenness. Refugees who had nothing built, companies that empowered other migrants. Holocaust survivors shared their trauma and sparked global movements of tolerance. Dyslexic Jewish students later revolutionized education tech tools for learning disorders. The common thread? They didn't say, "Why me?" They said, "Now that it's me, what can I do with this?" They made their limitation the key to empathy, and empathy became their engine. 5. Uniqueness beats perfection. In business, being relatable often wins over being flawless. Jewish creators understand, people don't buy perfect, they buy real. So when you build something from your flaw, people listen because they trust your struggle, because they feel seen, because they know you get it. That's how a Jewish entrepreneur with anxiety can create a wellness brand for overwhelmed parents and outperform polished, soulless competitors. Own the narrative, or someone else will. If you don't take charge of your weakness, the world will define it for you. Jewish individuals don't wait to be labeled. They label themselves strategically. Yes, I failed before. Now I teach how not to. Yes, I have scars. Here's how they became my power. Yes, I was broke. Now I help others break free. Owning your story builds trust, credibility, and magnetism. Pretending you're perfect? That builds distance and doubt. 7. Your pain is a niche waiting to be served. The market is full of underserved micro niches. Single dads with depression, immigrants struggling to fit in, students who feel too slow to learn, entrepreneurs with ADHD. If you were once one of them, you now hold the map. Jewish creators often don't go wide. They go deep into the communities they know best because that's where their pain came from, and that's where they can create the most value. 8. Shame is heavy, but it can be sold as wisdom. What you carry as shame, others carry as confusion. When you explain your past clearly, you become a guide. When you build something out of it, you become a leader. When you monetize it, you become a model of reinvention. The Jewish don't glorify weakness. They leverage it. They convert it. They prove that nothing, not even brokenness, is wasted. 9. Your struggle can be someone's shortcut. This is the Jewish ethic of contribution. I struggled so others don't have to struggle as long. That's why Jewish teachers, coaches, authors, and inventors are often deeply personal in their work. They're not just selling a product, they're selling a piece of themselves, refined, tested, and repurposed. Because when you earn wisdom the hard way, it becomes a gift to others and a business model for you. Hash or 10. Don't bury the weakness. Build with it. In the end, Jewish wisdom teaches us the most powerful story is the one you were afraid to tell. Your pain is your position. Your flaw is your fingerprint. Your lowest moment could be your life's calling if you use it right. So the next time you're tempted to hide what hurt you, ask, can I turn this into a tool? Can I build something from it? Can I use it to lift others and lift myself? That's how you turn what broke you into what builds you. And that's how the Jewish turn weakness into wealth. Teach your child to start low, to stand tall. The Jewish way, building leaders from the ground up. 1. No crown without calluses. In many families, especially wealthy ones, children are pushed straight into management roles, given titles, power, and responsibility they haven't earned. But the Jewish tradition takes the opposite route. If my child is to inherit the business, they must first inherit the struggle. There is no prince shortcut, no skipping steps. From stocking shelves to handling difficult clients, Jewish children are taught. You don't deserve to lead something you don't understand from the bottom up. Because without roots, there is no stability, and without sweat, there is no strength. 2. Knowledge of the system begins at the bottom. Jewish families often introduce their children to business not through the boardroom, but through the warehouse, the counter, the kitchen, the field. The child might sweep floors in the family shop, pack goods at the back of the factory, do deliveries during holidays, answer angry customer calls. This is not humiliation, it's education. They learn how the business truly operates, what the frontline staff experience, what real customers want, where the inefficiencies hide. By the time they rise, they don't just manage, they master. 3. From laborer to leader, one honest step at a time. The Jewish path to leadership is not a leap, it's a ladder. Each rung builds humility, competence, respect from staff, first-hand wisdom. A child who starts by working the cash register will one day balance the books with real empathy. A teenager who sorts deliveries will later redesign the logistics system with insight, not theory. Because in Jewish belief, if you don't touch the roots, you won't protect the tree. 4. Leadership isn't given, it's proven. Jewish parents don't hand out power based on bloodline. They assign responsibility based on merit. Even in multi-generational businesses, the heir is expected to earn their place. They must fail publicly, solve real problems, gain the trust of the lowest employee, show discipline before ambition. This ensures the family legacy isn't run by entitlement, but by excellence. 5. Wealth without grounding is a future disaster. Children raised on privilege but not preparation often become arrogant, impulsive, dependent on staff, unable to handle crisis. Jewish families see this coming and prevent it early. They know a child who only knows the top will fall fast when it shakes. So they train resilience early. They strip down the ego and build up the backbone. Because the higher you rise, the more pressure you must carry. And only those who felt the ground can truly carry the weight of legacy. 6. Respect is earned, not inherited. When a child works at the lowest levels of the business, staff respect them. Customers relate to them. Suppliers trust them. They understand loyalty from both sides. By the time they lead, they are not the boss's kid. They are one of the tribe, forged by effort, not favoritism. This creates harmony, stability, and deep trust across generations. 7. Skills are transferable. Entitlement is not. Even if the child chooses a different path later, law, medicine, tech, the early exposure to hard, grounded work becomes their secret advantage. They know how to communicate across class, how to keep their ego in check, how to handle rejection, how to negotiate without arrogance. This makes them unbreakable in any industry because they've built identity through action, not luxury. 8. Children who start low don't fear starting over. Life is unpredictable. Businesses rise and fall. But a child who's learned from the bottom never fears rebuilding. Jewish parents raise their children to fall without collapse, to restart without panic, to adapt without shame. That's why so many Jewish entrepreneurs, even after bankruptcy or loss, rebuild stronger. Their foundation isn't money, it's method, memory, and mindset. 9. Don't protect them from hardship. Prepare them for it. The greatest act of love isn't easing your child's path. It's training their feet to walk all terrain. Jewish parenting is not about pampering. It's about responsibility, exposure, resilience, real-life wisdom. A child who earns their first salary by working, not receiving, values money differently. A child who is corrected by a tough manager, not protected by dad, learns humility early. Get 10. Let them start in the dirt so they can one day plant forests. The Jewish mindset understands. Legacy isn't what you give your child, it's what you build inside them. Start low, work slow, build deep. That child, once grounded in effort, will rise not as a shadow of your success, but as the guardian of your legacy and the creator of something even greater. Because when you teach your child to sweep the floor before they sit at the head of the table, you are not delaying their success. You are guaranteeing it. Intellect is the greatest capital. The Jewish principle, degrees fade, wisdom pays forever. 1. Show what you know, not what you hold. In a world obsessed with titles, certificates, and degrees, Jewish thinking cuts through the noise with a sharp truth. It's not the diploma that builds wealth. It's what you do with what you know. Jewish families don't worship formal education. They respect it, but they don't equate it with intelligence. To them, true intellect is practical, adaptive, profitable, transferable. It's not stored on paper. It's embedded in thinking, doing, questioning, and solving. 2. Smart is not who reads the most, but who applies the fastest. A Jewish student may read fewer books than their peers, but each book is read with intent. They don't highlight pretty quotes. They ask, how does this apply to me? What system does this reveal? Where can I test this insight? Who can I teach this to for retention? Because in Jewish thinking, unapplied knowledge is just weight. What matters is not how much you know, but how deeply it changes your decisions. 3. Wisdom over memory. Questions over answers. Jewish learning traditions, especially in Talmudic study, are built around asking, not answering. Students are encouraged to debate, challenge assumptions, reverse arguments, think in contradictions. Ask, why is this obvious? This creates critical thinkers, not passive consumers. And in business, this shows up as seeing gaps others miss, anticipating risks early, innovating through insight, spotting patterns in chaos. Because he who questions deeply owns the future. 4. Tritoy la taisan kongte dang tue, kongte dang kap. You can lose money. You can lose property, but your ability to think, decide, interpret, and create, that's untouchable. Jewish families invest in this because it's portable, permanent, profitable, powerful under pressure. That's why they say, if you can't pass down land, pass down thinking. It will buy the land later. 5. They don't just learn, they learn to earn. Jewish education is never abstract. Even in religious studies, the goal is to extract applicable tools. How to resolve disputes, how to manage time, how to negotiate ethically, how to persuade with logic. This creates a mindset where every lesson is connected to life, not locked in theory. They constantly ask, what can I do with this? What problem does this solve? Can I teach or trade this insight? Because in their view, knowledge must circulate to gain value, just like capital. 6. Don't flex credentials. Demonstrate competence. While others introduce themselves with degrees and affiliations, Jewish thinkers introduce themselves with clarity of thought. They don't say, I went to this school. They say, here's how I see the market. They say, here's the mistake I'd avoid. They say, here's the better question to ask. That's what wins respect, trust, and deals. Not a resume, but real world reasoning. 7. A brain that trains daily beats a genius that sleeps. Jewish culture values daily intellectual exercise, not for prestige, but for sharpness. They believe the mind must be stretched, curiosity must be fed, laziness must be outsmarted. So even successful Jewish entrepreneurs will read every morning, debate over dinner, learn from failures, take notes in synagogue, study competitor behavior, ask why 5 times before deciding. Because they know a trained mind sees profit where others see noise. 8. Your thinking is the real business plan. Jewish entrepreneurs don't follow trends blindly. They interrogate them. Why is this hot? What principle underpins it? Is it a fad or a shift in human need? What's the second-order consequence? This depth protects them from FOMO, scams, shiny object syndrome, hype bubbles, because they don't need external hype to move. They trust their mental compass. 9. Intelligence is a legacy. In Jewish households, wisdom is passed down like heirlooms. Grandfathers tell negotiation tricks. Mothers teach intuition through parables. Siblings share business failure lessons. Children are taught how to think, not what to memorize. This transmission of living, tested knowledge is more valuable than any inheritance because it means the next generation doesn't start from scratch. They start with strategic advantage. 10. Degrees can expire, but insight ages like wine. Jewish wisdom teaches, don't build your identity on paper, build it in practice. In the end, markets change, rules change, tools change, but the trained mind adapts faster than all of them. And so the Jewish don't rely on titles. They rely on depth, sharpness, and adaptability. Because the greatest currency isn't in your account, it's in your head. A sharp brain earns for life. And no one, not the state, not inflation, not thieves, can ever take it away. Observe, don't complain. The Jewish strategy: in every crisis, find the unnoticed need. Ta 1. While others panic, the Jewish, when crisis hits, be it economic collapse, war, or a pandemic, most people freeze. They complain, they blame, they wait for rescue. But that the Jewish response is radically different. If I'm surrounded by chaos, I must open my eyes wider, because somewhere in this noise, opportunity is whispering. They don't waste time asking, why is this happening to me? They ask, what am I seeing that others aren't? Because in every crisis, patterns emerge, needs shift, and gaps appear, but only to those who are looking with calm, analytical eyes. 2. Emotion blocks vision. Clarity opens doors. Jewish culture teaches that the first skill in any crisis is emotional discipline. You cannot see clearly if you're blinded by fear, anger, or envy. That's why, instead of feeding anxiety, they step back, watch behavior, follow the money, listen to unspoken needs. They ask, what are people buying more of? What are they complaining about online? What disappeared from shelves? What services are overwhelmed? While the world screams, they scan. 3. Complaints are clues. Silence is a signal. In times of disruption, the market talks, not always in words, but in patterns. A service that suddenly gets overwhelmed, a product everyone wants but no one can supply, a group of people left out of aid or access, a region overlooked by mainstream providers. Jewish entrepreneurs are trained to spot the ignored, underserved, or misread. They don't chase headlines, they decode undercurrents, because what looks invisible to the masses often becomes inevitable value for the observant. Not just the drama. In any economic storm, the Jewish don't follow fear, they follow cash flow. They study. What businesses are still moving money? What habits are shifting in consumer behavior? What technologies just became essential overnight? Who is quietly growing while others shrink? They don't gossip about layoffs. They study supply chain breaks, vendor behavior, wholesale fluctuations. Because behind every crisis headline is a map of movement, and whoever sees that map can move first. The power of quiet action. Jewish thinkers understand. When everyone is yelling, the smart ones are building. They don't rush to show off. They don't post reactionary opinions. They gather data, test small ideas, pivot rapidly, and launch quietly. By the time the noise calms down, they're already in position with a product, with a service, with a solution, with leverage. Shift 6. Training the eye for the unspoken. Jewish education trains young minds not just to know, but to notice. Why did the shop next door close, but another one didn't? Why are customers complaining, yet returning? Why is this product out of stock in 3 cities? This level of micro-observation becomes macro-advantage. They're not obsessed with data. They're obsessed with what the data means beneath the surface. Step 7. Spot the unserved before they start screaming. By the time most of the market sees a need, it's already crowded. The Jewish strategy is to spot early silence, the elderly who can't adapt to new tech, migrants who don't access public aid, businesses that lack digital transformation, parents overwhelmed by new school systems. They don't wait for surveys. They don't wait for funding. They move at the moment of realization, not validation. 8. Build systems while others blame systems. During crisis, most people curse the government, economy, or fate. Jewish entrepreneurs build systems. New delivery channels, new customer funnels, new supply chains, new online platforms, because they know the one who builds in silence will be the one who sells when the noise settles. 9. Crisis is a mirror. Watch what it reflects. In moments of tension, people's real values, habits, and fears surface. Jewish thinkers use these moments as sociological lenses. What do people protect first? What do they cut first? What do they crave but can't articulate? These observations become marketing angles, product directions, brand philosophies, sales scripts. Because in crisis, truth becomes visible if you dare to see it without flinching. 10. Don't panic. Don't preach. Just perceive and prepare. The Jewish formula in any storm is simple. Observe deeply, act wisely, move silently, profit humbly. They believe crisis is not a wall, it's a window. But only those who stay calm, quiet, and curious will see through it. So while others post rants, spiral in emotion, or wait for help, Jewish minds are watching, learning, and laying the next stone forward. That's how they don't just survive storms. They reshape the map after the storm passes. Reputation over revenue, the Jewish principle. Trust is worth more than the transaction. 1. Money can be re-earned. Trust cannot. To most people, losing a customer means losing a sale. To Jewish business thinkers, it means risking generations of goodwill. They believe you can always make back the money, but once trust is broken, it rarely comes home again. That's why, even in tough times, they'll refund, repair, replace, not because it's cheap, but because it's wise. Because in Jewish culture, reputation isn't marketing, it's legacy. And one tarnished name can echo far beyond a balance sheet. 2. A wrong order costs more than a refund. In a purely transactional mindset, a botched delivery is a hiccup. In the Jewish mindset, it's a strategic threat. Why? That unhappy customer might tell 10 others. You don't just lose one buyer, you lose a network. You damage the emotional bridge you worked years to build. They believe in the compounding effect of trust, just like the compounding of money. So they ask themselves daily, is what I'm doing right now protecting or draining my future reputation? 3. Profit without integrity is a short game. You can cut corners and win for a while. You can deceive a client once and bank the difference. But Jewish entrepreneurs don't build on sand. They build on transparency, consistency, word of mouth, promises kept. Because they understand, one quiet, loyal customer is worth more than 100 loud leads. And the only way to earn that loyalty is to respect every transaction as a trust contract, not just a sale. 4. Inheritance is not just assets, it's reputation. Jewish families teach. You don't just inherit property, you inherit the name that built it. That's why many Jewish businesses span generations. Grandchildren run bakeries where grandfathers once greeted every customer by name. Daughters take over law firms where fathers were known for keeping their word, even when it cost them. Sons continue medical clinics where mothers once stayed late, unpaid, to treat a child. These legacies weren't bought. They were earned by decades of credibility. Schna 5. When in doubt, choose the high road. In moments of conflict, when a customer accuses unfairly, when a partner turns greedy, when competitors cheat, Jewish business people have a compass. Would I be proud to tell my child how I handled this? That's the test. Not what's legal, not what's easy, not what makes the fastest buck, but what's right and what protects the family name across time. 6. Word of mouth is the oldest and best marketing. Jewish businesses don't rely on flashy ads. They build slowly through relationship, story, and trust. Because they know one client who believes in you will bring 5 more. One referral from the heart is stronger than 1,000 clicks. One broken promise can shut an entire community's doors. In their world, every interaction is a seed. And the fruit grows best when the seed is clean, honest, and intentional. 7. Teach the next generation to guard the name. Jewish parents don't just teach business tactics. They teach, don't lie to close a deal. Don't promise what you can't fulfill. Don't silence a complaint, solve it. Don't value cash more than character. Because money comes and goes, but a name, once polluted, poisons every field it enters. Their belief is simple. Let your children inherit trust so deep that customers come to them before seeing a product. Nasha 8. A clean conscience builds clear strategy. When your name is respected, people answer your calls, suppliers prioritize your orders, communities protect your store, strangers become brand ambassadors. Jewish entrepreneurs don't see ethics as optional. They see it as a core business asset. Reputation is not an outcome, it's a capital base. 9. Customers forgive mistakes, not deceit. Jewish business culture knows you will make errors. That's human. But what customers won't forgive is dishonesty, deflection, or disrespect. So they train their teams to admit quickly, apologize sincerely, rectify publicly, improve visibly. Because every crisis, if handled with integrity, becomes a story of trust shared over generations. 10. Protect the name, and the name will protect you. In the end, the Jewish understanding is clear. We don't trade our reputation for revenue, because one protects the day, the other protects the decade. So they may lose a deal today. They may refund more than they're required to. They may walk away from a toxic client, but they sleep with peace. They build with pride, and they leave behind something money alone cannot. A name that opens doors because it has never closed its word. Ecosystem thinking, the Jewish strategy for long-term dominance. Don't just create, build. Don't just build, own the system. 1. From one product to a whole platform. Most people focus on making one product, one video, one service. But Jewish entrepreneurs zoom out and ask, how can this become a brand, a community, a system that scales even when I sleep? Whether they're creating content, launching a business, or freelancing, they think beyond the product. They build an ecosystem, a self-sustaining structure where the audience stays, the message compounds, the ownership is theirs. Don't just go viral. Build a home. Going viral is a moment. Building a brand is a movement. Jewish thinkers know, if I rely on platforms I don't control, I rent success. If I build my own foundation, I own it. That's why they invest in personal websites, email lists, private communities, direct customer data, because they understand attention fades but access lasts. 3. Brand first, products later. Before selling anything, Jewish creators build a story. They shape a recognizable voice, a consistent message, a trusted image, a mission people remember. Once the brand is trusted, any product becomes easier to sell because people aren't just buying what they see, they're buying who they believe in. Pacha 4. Audience is not enough. Own the relationship. Having followers is not the same as having access. Platforms like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram can take your audience away with one algorithm change. That's why Jewish entrepreneurs focus on conversion. Viewers, subscribers. Subscribers, community. Community, loyal buyers. Buyers, co-creators. They don't just perform. They nurture, communicate, and retain. 5. Every piece of content is a doorway. A smart video or blog post isn't just content. It's an entry point into an ecosystem. In ecosystem thinking, everything connects. A TikTok video leads to an email list. An email leads to a paid workshop. A workshop leads to coaching. Coaching leads to affiliate sales. Affiliate clients become podcast guests. Podcast guests bring new audiences. Nothing is random. Everything is designed to feed the whole. 6. Think systems, not just success. Most creators hustle for the next win. Jewish entrepreneurs build systems that generate wins repeatedly. That means standardized onboarding, automated funnels, content that reuses and repurposes, offers that stack and scale, data to track behavior and improve targeting. They build for efficiency, longevity, and control. 7. The ecosystem is a safety net. When ads fail, a strong brand carries you. When trends shift, your community stays loyal. When platforms fall, your database remains. The ecosystem acts as a shock absorber in a volatile digital economy. While others panic, those who think like Jewish entrepreneurs simply pivot within their own infrastructure. 8. Create once, monetize forever. Ecosystem thinkers don't create endless new things. They create once and connect smartly. A live webinar becomes a course becomes a book becomes a licensing model, a blog post becomes 10 social clips, one message powers 100 assets. They think like gardeners, not hunters. Plant deep, then grow wide. 9. Build with exit points in mind. Jewish entrepreneurs don't just build to operate. They build to one day license, delegate, or sell. That's why they create systems that don't rely on one person, are documented, can be automated or replicated, can be expanded into new verticals. In their eyes, an ecosystem is not just a business, it's an asset class. 10. Don't just work hard, work connected. Working hard on content, sales, or service delivery is good, but working hard within an ecosystem multiplies your results. Because in ecosystem thinking, everything feeds everything. One action supports many outcomes. Every customer becomes a channel. Every message is part of a mission. You don't just build a business, you build a world. And those who build worlds don't just win today, they shape the future on their terms. Thanks so much for spending your time with us today. If you found value in this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, leave a comment to let us know your thoughts, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss what's coming next. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and keep moving forward.